Can you tell me a little bit about where you grew up, sir?
Well, I was fortunate. My dad's work kind of took us all over the country. I lived on the East Coast from New Jersey all the way to Oregon and California, from Minnesota down to Florida, Arizona, New Mexico. And so I got a chance to see this majestic country. And you can't help but be proud when you see it. You really can't. So I was very fortunate and that I got to do that. And I got to meet people that you would never meet if you just stayed in one place. So that's where I grew up. I grew up in America.
What made you decide to actually join the Marine Corps and maybe move around a little bit more?
My intent was not to move around a little bit more. This sounds a little hokey, like the word hokey sounds a little hokey. I'm patriotic. I love this country. You know, I grew up with freedoms to do things that I wanted to do. I got to go places and see things that people couldn't get the chance to see. And I thought I had an obligation to serve my country. The reason I joined the Marine Corps is because I met a guy when I was about 12 years old when I lived in Alamucci, New Jersey. And he was a former or retired LDO captain. And he told me about the Marine Corps. And then I started watching movies about the Marine Corps and reading books about the Marine Corps. I guess since I was 12 years old, I always wanted to be a Marine. You know, when you hear about Marines and you listen to the stories about Marines, they're winners. And I want to be part of that. So that's why I decided the Marine Corps. Right out of high school, I joined the Marine Corps.
Can you tell us, I've got 2 pages full here, can you tell us a little bit about your career path and the different avenues that you've gone through?
Okay. I went through boot camp in San Diego. And from there, you know, I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, as my first duty station. I got to go on a med cruise with 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines, BLT-12. My CO was a guy by the name of Lieutenant Colonel Al Gray, who later became Commandant of the Marine Corps. From there, I got a chance to be on the All-Marine Orienteering Team. I traveled all over Europe and Scandinavian countries. It was a true joy. From that point, I came back to the United States and decided to become a drill instructor. I got married to my wonderful wife, Vicki, and you know, I didn't plan on staying in the Marine Corps. I really didn't. I think because I was on the All-Marine Orienteering Team, I met a staff sergeant who was a real staff sergeant in the Marine Corps, and he changed my viewpoint. He showed me that Marines were in here, not just based on the rank you have in your collar. So I guess that was a starting point where I became a real Marine. Before that, I was a guy wearing, I think I just wearing the, you know, the rank and calling myself Marine. From there, like I said, I became a drill instructor, got military promoted down there in Paris Island, staff sergeant. Got a couple tours in Okinawa, got a couple tours in Korea, got a chance to go on a Carib cruise and a Mediterranean cruise. Got a bunch of golden opportunities. I was one of the plank holders of MAW 1 down in Yuma, Arizona. There's just, you know, there's a lot of things. I guess the best things that ever happened to me, if we call them highlights, I think the first highlight was I got out of boot camp. And the reason I say that is because my drill instructor made it very clear to me, all the way through boot camp, he had no intention of inflicting the Marine Corps on me on the Marine Corps with my very presence. So that was probably a highlight right there, the fact that I actually made it out of boot camp. Some of the other things is the commands. I've had the honor and the privilege of commanding at every rank since I was an officer. As a warrant officer, I got to command a platoon. As a captain, or a lieutenant, I got to command a platoon. As a captain, I had companies. As a major, I had a field grade company. Lieutenant colonel, I had a squadron. And as an 06, you know, I had an MWSG group headquarters. So I've had the honor of doing that. So I guess those are things that are of most value to me. The honor of being able to do that.
What is it about commanding that you love so much?
You get the chance to mold people. You get to command a chance to command or lead, I guess is a better word. lead these outstanding young men and women who are coming in the Marine Corps. That's just, it's amazing to watch them grow and to see the things they can accomplish. Marines can do anything, and these young men and women today are some of the greatest Marines that ever lived, in my opinion.
You're talking about some of the highlights of your career. What are some of the places that you really enjoyed being?
Oh, those are tough. I tell you, I have not had a bad command, or been at a bad command. I really haven't. I've enjoyed every one of them. There's no real special ones in my mind. My family went to Okinawa with me for 3 years, so that was kind of special. My family lives in California now. Most of them grew up here because we've been transferred back and forth around California. So I guess Southern California is probably my favorite because that's where we live most of the time, between Camp Pendleton, Miramar, and other locations. But I have no real one place that is my favorite.
Talked about some of your highlights. What were some of the challenges that you faced during your time?
Anytime you're married and you have to deploy, that's tough on families. I am very fortunate because I have a wonderful wife. Vicky's been with me for 40 years. She loves the Marines and the Marine Corps as much as I do. So that made it a little easier. She understands. She's a Navy brat. Her dad spent 30 years as a Navy Reserve. So she understands the military. The biggest challenges was, not being there when your kids were doing certain things. So I guess that would be it right there.
Over the time that you've been in, and I'm sure you've obviously seen and done a lot. What are some of the changes that you've seen during your time in?
Oh, there's a lot of changes. When I came in the Marine Corps, grease pencils were the way you put things on paper or on boards. Now we have computers, so technology is a big change. Communication systems are weapon systems. And I started off firing an M14 rifle. So, and then we went to the M16, M16A1. Now we're at we have the M4 and all those other weapon systems that Marines use on the battlefield. So weapon systems changed. Vehicles. We started off with the M151 Willys Jeeps. And now we have MRAPs. We went through we had the Jeeps, then we had the Cut Bs, then we went to the Humvees, and now we have MRAPs. So there's a big change. Same thing with the trucks. We had little deuce and a halves, which we thought were pretty big trucks back then, and now we have these monster MATVs. We went to the 5-ton and went to the 7-ton. Now we got this thing, and this thing is a giant. It's computerized.
You had talked before about it wasn't until you went on the all-Marine orienteering team and you met the staff sergeant and you didn't know if you were going to be in for the long haul. Is that when you decided when you'd be in?
He made me a Marine. Okay. That staff sergeant was a true staff sergeant in the Marine Corps. Before that, like I was saying before, I was just a guy wearing a rank. I made it to corporal, and I made the orienteering team. It didn't take him long to see that I was a sea bag. Dressed like a sea bag guy. So that's what term we used to use. You're dressed like just drug a uniform out of a sea bag. And he squared me away, and he made me a Marine. He made me an NCO. I guess that's a better thing to say. He made me a non-commissioned officer. And from there, it was just up and upwards. Everything was upward after that. Found myself on the drill field. Found myself as a staff sergeant. Found myself doing things that I wanted to do as a Marine. And that was leading Marines.
You had talked again about about you've been married for 40 years.
Yes, I have. Well, actually, 42 years this year.
42 years.
Been married for 40 years, 42 years in the Marine Corps.
Have you ever forgotten an anniversary?
I have never forgotten an anniversary.
What can you tell me a little bit about your extended family, about your wife's family?
Well, my wife's father spent 30 years in the Navy. He served during World War II. and then he spent the remainder of his time as a Naval Reserve. He was also a Navy recruiter, and he actually recruited 4 of my brothers. He didn't get me, but he got 4 of my brothers. So my wife is kind of used to being associated with the military.
Going by all the years that you've been in and the 2 pages of your biography, after all these years, what keeps you going?
I love the Marine Corps. I love working with Marines. I think I have an obligation for service, and that keeps me going. I think the other thing is my wife wouldn't let me get out at this stage again. She loves Marines. She absolutely loves the Marine Corps. She loves the Marines and the sailors that serve with Marines. She'll give the shirt off of my back for a Marine.
And is there any time, has your family or any point where you just think, you're saying, okay, it's time for me to go, like I've done everything I can do? Have you ever reached that point?
I haven't got to that point yet. I've always said to myself that when I can no longer keep up with the young guys, it's time for me to get out. Right now, I think I'm still keeping up with the young guys, so I'm okay.
What do you think that says to the young troops?
Well, hopefully it motivates them, keeps them, keeps them going. If I beat somebody in a PFT, they'll try a little harder. If I beat somebody in a CFT or carry somebody on a CFT and I pass them coming down the stretch, it makes them try a little harder. Well, where do I begin? Being in the Marine Corps has cost my family a little bit. I didn't spend all the time with them as I wanted to as they were growing up, which is common for every military family, not just the Marine Corps. I have 4 great boys and a lovely wife. Vicki is just the greatest woman in the world, as far as I'm concerned. My sons are real close to me. Even though we didn't spend all the time we could have spent together, we get along great. We're not afraid to hug each other, the whole package. 3 of my boys live in Southern California, so I see them and my 9 grandchildren quite often. My other son is in the Army, and he's retiring after 20 years. It's kind of funny because he joined the Marine Corps, I was in the Marine Corps when he was born, and now he's retiring from the Army after 20 years, and I'm still kicking, I guess. It's kind of a funny story. My son wanted to be a Marine. And he went to the Marine Corps recruiter and he wanted to be an aviation mechanic. And it turned out that they didn't have any quotas for him. And they told him he had to wait quite a long time. So he went next door to the Army. And apparently the Army needed people at the time, so they told him that we can ship you next week. We can guarantee you aviation maintenance. So he came home and says, "Dad, what would you think if I joined the Army?" I guess he thought I was going to get some kind of gung-ho response from me, what are you, crazy or something? But it didn't work out that way. It turns out what I did, when it was the right thing to do, was I told him that I was proud of him, that he was willing to serve his country.
What kind of things do you think you'll say to him on the day of his retirement?
Congratulations.
Let's see, is there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't discussed that you think people should really know?
Well, there is. I've served with some great Marines over my 42 years in service. Many of them become senior leaders in the Marine Corps. General Amos was one of my squadron commanders. General Al Gray was one of my battalion commanders. So I've worked with some great folks. But I can't tell you how proud I am of the young men and women that join the Marine Corps today to serve their country. They are truly patriots. They raise their hand knowing there's a war on. They know that there's a chance that they may go into harm's way themselves, but yet they volunteer to serve. People in America wonder what's happening to the youth of this country. I work with these people, these young men and women, every day, and I can tell them that America's in good hands. And the Marine Corps' future is in good hands with leadership, because the future of leadership in the Marine Corps is outstanding.